Frank Perry is quite a noted director in the context of American independent filmmakers, and his 1960s work is still rather acclaimed today. His most famous work is probably 1968's The Swimmer, starring Burt Lancaster. It was in exploring the works of Frank Perry that I came across 1979's Dummy, a telefilm starring LeVar Burton and Paul Sorvino. It dramatises the true story of Donald Lang, portrayed by Burton, a deaf man accused of having murdered two prostitutes, one in 1965 and another in 1971. His legal defence was one Lowell J. Myers, portrayed by Sorvino, who happened to be deaf himself. This film focuses upon the initial charge, that in 1965, ending on a kind of cliffhanger as Lang is charged with the 1971 murder. Looking into the real case, and I read a blog post by one ex-officer Jim Padar who was involved in the 1971 case, it isn't necessarily clear that Donald Lang was innocent. However, what is certainly true, as Padar writes in his post, in a 1960 landmark case, Dusky v. US, the United States Supreme Court established that a defendant must understand the charges against him and must have the ability to aid his attorney in his own defense. From what I knew about Donald Lang, that would be an impossibility. But when I read Donald Lang v. Department of Mental Health, September 29, 1970, the Illinois Supreme Court seemed to be saying, go ahead and try Lang anyway. Why the case of Donald Lang set such a precedent in American legal history, I think, is because there was a temptation to bypass judicial formalities and offer Donald Lang a legally unfair trial. His defense, Lowell Myers, was well aware of the degree to which Lang might be impaired from proper legal treatment, being unable to directly communicate, and fought tooth and nail so that Lang's unique case be treated to the technicalities it required, given Lang's evident handicap. Writer Ernest Tidyman had written a non-fiction book about the Donald Lang case, which was published in 1974, and he subsequently handled the screenplay adaptation for television. Tidyman is most well known for writing the series of novels which introduced the world to Detective John Shaft. Can you dig it? He wrote the screenplay to the classic film from 1971, although was reportedly unhappy with it. He then was hired to write the screenplay for The French Connection, perhaps his most celebrated work overall. The film Dummy itself is admirable. It has been accused of taking liberties in its dramatization, liberties which are apparently not present in Tidyman's original book, according to Jim Padar, who considered that book to be accurate. In any case, I still consider Frank Perry's Dummy to be a strong film, and firm evidence that Perry was a talented director. Imagine if someone such as John Courtey, Stephen Hilliard Stern, or maybe even Jack Smite had handled this. Perry had clearly such a talent with informing actors' performances. His films are typically reliant on this, and realistic, believable, down-to-earth performances at that. No Circean melodrama in Perry, or even that Cassavetes yelling thing. Comparing Diary of a Mad Housewife and A Woman Under the Influence back-to-back is instructive in observing distinct philosophies of directing actors on a film set. Visually, it is well composed, and narratively, rather strong. For a telefilm, Dummy is a brilliant take on that familiar archetype. Perry takes the material seriously and conjures a relevant drama out of its source. While some have taken issue with an apparent apathy to strict factuality within its narrative, I feel as though 1979's Dummy is worth endorsing as a piece of ethically educational legal fiction.